Hello and welcome back to Stories That Shaped Her. I'm here with Amy Cooper, my friend, and she has quite a few stories. Well, not quite a few stories, a couple
A
stories
couple.
that she's going to share with us today. So, the first story is about her son, Case. So, Amy, can you share a little bit about Case?
Yeah. So Case is my son. I have twins, Emma and Case. 12 years old, and he was diagnosed with autism pretty early on. He was about a year and a half when I started to notice some things about him that were different. He developed normally from an infant, happy, hit all the milestones, and then I just kind of noticed his language, his speech wasn't coming. He wasn't really paying attention when you talked to him. Um, and his sister was developing at a little bit of a faster pace. And so I mentioned to the doctors, and they kind of just brushed it off a little bit, like, oh, it's fine. He's fine. He's a boy, like it's normal. And even my family was like, oh, he doesn't have the typical. I was like, I don't know. He doesn't look at me. Like I call his name and he doesn't turn his head and look at me and things like that. And they said, well, he's not flapping his arms. He's not walking on his tiptoes, all the classical signs that we always look for in autism. Um, and so he didn't have speech, so we got him into speech therapy at very young. They came to the house. And then we had a speech therapist come to the house. She worked with him, and that's when she kind of was like, I noticed that maybe you might want to get a diagnosis. She kind of recommended us starting the process because to get in to see somebody to diagnose him, the wait was pretty long.
Oh, wow.
So probably maybe 6 months for somebody who could accurately diagnose him. So long story short, he was probably a little over 2 before he was actually diagnosed, and it was just basically an hour and a half visit with a child psychologist at Children's, and they kinda knew, like, just based on his play skills and stuff that he was autistic. Yeah, so I would say that was probably in the fall. He was probably a little over about 2.5 when he was diagnosed officially, which helped because then we were able to get services. We were able to
Oh,
get, the speech therapy and
mhm.
and anything else that he might have needed, like occupational therapy and things like that.
With Emma and Case being twins, did they still have that interaction between them, or did
No.
they not have that?
No, and I kind of like when I was pregnant and I found out it was twins, besides the devastation part of
Yeah.
having twins, not devastation, but I had a 20-month-old at the time.
Right.
So, I was like, "Oh, they're gonna have this special bond," and they didn't, and that kind of broke my heart a little bit, and I
Mhm.
can remember, like, for the first I don't know how many years, it was probably till he was over 3, like, he just didn't really interact with either of his siblings. He just kinda did his own thing,
Mhm.
and I kind of mourned that interaction, that closeness that I thought that they would have because they were twins. But I remember at one time, I actually have the video on my phone of him and Emma interacting, and they were hugging each other, and he was laughing and giggling as she was tickling him. And I think even she was kind of like, "Oh, mom, I can't believe this is happening." Like he's never played like this with me before. And so yeah, it was never what I had. She had a bond with my other son before she ever had a bond with Case.
Yeah.
So
Um, when you first found out, or maybe when you suspected he could be autistic, how did you feel emotionally, both you and TJ?
I remember like having a party at our house for my son's birthday, and everybody kind of knew that we were having this appointment for him, and finally getting the results and hearing that word, you kind of in the back of your mind you think like maybe not, maybe he is just a little slow developing, and being extremely sad and like crying because, and I've read this a lot, that people mourn the child that they thought they were gonna have. And I still mourn, who I thought that he was going to be versus who he really is. So it was a lot of sadness. Like, I know that I was angry that it happened to me because I thought, "Oh, how does this happen? What did I do wrong?" So sadness and anger, that's the only thing I can say about it.
Yeah. Did TJ feel the same?
Yeah, we were
You had that
both.
conversation?
Yeah, we were both just like, oh man, this is gonna be a lot harder. And at the time we didn't think that like I said, he was happy. He was eating well, he was sleeping well. So we're like, oh, maybe it's just mild. And I remember his speech therapist saying to us, well, he's more of the moderate to severe. And we were like, what? Like, no, that's crazy, but then as he progresses, he got older, he definitely has, checks all the boxes for more of a moderate to severe because he never really gained those language skills. Um, he doesn't really thrive in the general education classroom, things like that. So
Mhm.
he does, he like I said, he checks all those boxes for more of a moderate to severe autism. So that was hard to hear as well.
Yeah. Um, so I had said that he was verbal, and that is not correct.
Right. In the true sense of the word. So they use nonverbal as a way. He doesn't really use words to communicate. When he was younger, he hardly ever used words to communicate. I mean, he didn't even say hi and bye. Now, over the years, we've had countless of hours of speech therapy. Um, I think that just with him growing and his brain growing, he's gained words. He doesn't use them all the time, but he can use them to request things, certain things that he's extremely picky eater. He knows what he likes to eat. So if he wants Chick-fil-A, he say, "We go to Chick-fil-A." So he can say that phrase. Um, he can say, he might ask for cookies and he knows I have to go to the store to get them. He goes, "We go to buy some." So he does have speech. So he's not completely nonverbal. And he also has a communication device, like an iPad that he can communicate with. So he takes to school with him. They can use it to help him identify shapes, colors, numbers, and also request certain items that he uses at school. But when he comes home from school, that iPad goes back in his backpack. He does not use it at home. It's not because of us. He just prefers it that way.
Right.
So yeah. So in the true sense of the word, he's not completely nonverbal, but if you were looking at him from a medical diagnosis, they would say that he's nonverbal because he does not really use language to communicate all of his needs. He cannot communicate how he feels, emotions. So that's the challenging part. When he's crying and upset, he can't tell me why he's crying and upset. He can't tell me he may say something hurts, but to get him to tell me what hurts is very difficult.
Oh, wow.
He can sometimes show me, but for him to sometimes he'll just cry and you wonder like, you can know your children's cries. So then I
Mhm.
know like between an angry cry and a sad cry and I'm like, "Oh, I know he's sad." So I say, "Are you sad?" And but he can't tell me he's sad. He doesn't know why he's sad or I don't know why he's sad. And
Right.
that's really hard.
So we can't differentiate between the feelings, or I guess communicate between the feelings.
Yes. And like his little talking device has little pictures, for sad, angry, frustrated.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'll take it to him and say, "Are you sad?" And he may touch the sad button, but he can't tell me why he's sad. Or he can't tell me why he's frustrated. So that breaks my heart
Mhm.
because I can't help him. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night screaming and I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong. Do you have a nightmare? Are you hungry? Are you thirsty? He
Oh,
can't.
wow. Wow. I'm just thinking and relating that to having babies, having children myself. It's so difficult to, when they were nonverbal and, when they were just babies, what do you want? Do you want milk? Do you have a dirty diaper? Like, what is
And the
happening?
frustration you feel like, okay, so at some point you get frustrated because you're like, "Oh my gosh, what do you want?"
Mhm.
And when you're dealing with a 12-year-old who at this point, I sometimes can read him. We've kind of learned how to read certain things, but you second guess every decision that you make for them. And then I'm trying to decipher all of these moods. And he's 12, so he's going to be hitting puberty soon. So I'm like, okay, is this just something that's, it's like constantly having a toddler. That's what I tell everybody. I'm like, he has to be watched all the time. He can elope, meaning that he could disappear at any moment. He was in a habit one summer of just walking out the front door, and then if we weren't paying attention, he's up at the park. Or we've had to call the police a couple times because he maybe heard a quad riding in the woods, and he decided to ride his bike up to the park because he wanted to go see who was riding a quad. By the time I found him, the police were there, and some kid's on his quad with Case on his lap, and is like, "Yeah, he came down and found me. I was riding my quad." I'm like, "Oh yeah, he really likes motorcycles."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, or he used to come over our fence in our backyard to go into the neighbor's house, and neighbors would text me and be like, "Case is at our house." Like he just does whatever he wants.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa. How do you keep him corralled?
Eyes on him all the time. Case is home, we have to be on our game, whether it's my husband and or I or his, so I have a son that's 14 and his twin sister. So it's like, who's got eyes on Case? Where's he at? We do have a fenced in yard and we have a gate over our driveway. He knows how to open everything, but there's been summers where I can't get a thing done because it's like, worst case, what's he doing? Is he in the yard? So if he's in the backyard, we now have like an electric fence because our dog used to jump over the fence, so that also keeps him in the yard as well because he kinda knows, like, the little wire
Right.
would shock him if he touches it
Okay.
to kinda keep him in. Um, so when Case is home, someone has to be on him all the time. It's just like if you had a toddler at home. You would not if there's silence, then you know something is not right. So if Case is quiet, you know he's up to no good.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um I remember one summer I was out back, the kids were, like, in their little blow up pool, and I'm like, "Where's Case? Where's Case?" He had gone up into his room, and he used to like to, hang upside down for he's also, like a lot of kids with autism have sensory needs, whether they are sensitive to sounds and lights and textures and stuff,
Mhm.
or they thrive off of it, and he is a sensory seeker, so he enjoys loud noises, he enjoys spinning, and he enjoys being upside down, and he had been upside down on his bunk bed, but he got stuck and couldn't get himself back up, so I don't know how long he had been hanging there, like, off the ladder, like, his little eyes were bloodshot, and
Oh,
I was like,
no.
"Oh my god, dude, I just left you there." So, yeah, he needs to be watched at all times.
Wow. Does Emma and Beck communicate with him? D
It's been a struggle. It was the first couple years of his life they kind of didn't understand him. And it was a lot of us being like, "Play with your brother." He doesn't have any friends. He loves kids, but he doesn't know how to interact with them. So he just
Mhm.
kind of interacts around them. They've come a long way with him. We are all learning a lot of patience, but God bless them. Not that I don't wanna say that it's been forced, it's just been a lot of pushing on our part, like, "Include your brother's here," because he's a lot, and they're young, like, they're just getting into teenage years, he really gravitates towards my older son, Beck, he really enjoys Beck and Beck's friends when they come over, so, they sometimes view him as more of a burden than their brother just because it's a lot, like,
Mhm.
"Oh, well, we can't do this because Case is here today," or "We can't go there because Case would never be able to go to a place like that." Um, but as they age, they're getting a lot better and more patient with him, and they've
Mhm.
kind of learned to decipher, um, some of his wants and needs, but
Right.
it's been a little bit, like I said, more pushing on our part.
Right. Um, as a mom, how do you think that it's changed you?
Well, I would say it's taught me incredible patience. Um Patience that I did not think I had, some days I still don't think I have. Um, he has taught me, that, God, things are so simple. Like, I had this vision of what I was gonna be like as a mom, and it's that all went to shit. I am not the mom that I thought I was gonna be. I'm not doing the things with my kids that I thought I was gonna do, but at the same time, um, I've come to realize, like, appreciate being home and all the things that we can do together that maybe aren't ideal for everybody, but, um, maybe I'm getting off topic here because I got emotional about it, but he's taught me patience and he's taught me to appreciate all the simple things because he gets joy out of some of the smallest things. And I say that because watching the wind blow right now, he would love to go outside on your deck and just watch the leaves blow in the wind. When there's a rainstorm, he wants to go out and he wants to run in the rain. He could sit by a river and watch the water flow through the river all day long, literally all day long. Um, so in that sense, sometimes I can just sit with him and enjoy that moment, rather than always trying to worry about what I'm not doing,
Right.
like what I haven't done today because I can't or I for whatever reason, and just kind of like slowing down and
Mhm.
saying, you know what, take that moment and enjoy it a little bit because not everybody has that time to
Right.
do that. And I sometimes I'm like, oh, I have so much I have to do today. But Case just wants to do this, and he could sit on the swing for an hour just staring at the trees, and that brings him joy. Did I answer that?
Yes.
Does that make sense, I guess?
Yeah,
But yeah,
absolutely.
patience 100%. Wow. I'm still learning patience.
Yeah. I think that's what I prayed for every night when I went to bed. Ask God for forgiveness and give me more patience for
Yeah,
tomorrow.
I still say that. I'm sometimes, and thank God. I mean, I know that there are people that are single parents that are raising kids with autism, and I mean kids in general, but being able to have a spouse to kind of back you up and be like, I can't do this tonight. You know, like I need a minute.
Yeah.
Because or else I'm gonna lose my shit, or I'm gonna do something that I regret. I'm gonna scream, I'm gonna yell, or whatever, because I'm so frustrated.
Mhm.
So to have a spouse to bounce that off of, that's that's huge. Or just somebody to bounce that off of.
Right. Well, on that subject, how do you take care of you?
Thankfully, like, now that he's in school, like I've been fortunate enough to be able to stay home with my kids. He's at school, so I do have free time during the day. I definitely have found like I joined a gym about 8 years ago. Well, actually, that's
Yeah.
the owner of the gym at the time, and I met some great people through there, and that's kind of like my outlet. I just think that even if it's just a little bit of time I carve out of the day to either go to the gym, maybe take a nap, read my book, because I know when he comes home, we are on full what's the word I'm looking for, I guess? Um, I always say, like, my it's a full-time job. Um, there is no rest when Case is home. There is no so I try to take advantage of that time during the day when he's not home to kind of rest up for what's coming for the evening.
Right.
And that probably sounds like but our evenings are kind of chaotic because 'cause I've got 2 kids that are going different directions, and then Case is there, and he's running around, and we're trying to get him to maybe sit and eat dinner or whatever, and he's just gonna be watched all the time.
Mhm.
So, for me, I would say that, going to the gym, and I've got a great group of friends. I've got friends that all different walks of life. My husband's always like, "How do you keep track of all these people?" And I'm like, "I've got a book club in my neighborhood. I've got my friends from high school, my friends from college, friends I've met along the way, friends I've met from the gym, just people that I can just either physically talk to or just a text message, 'How are you?'" Which is that's huge for me. I
Mhm.
love having that. I don't necessarily have a therapist, but my friends are my therapy
Mhm.
because they can just they can even if they don't understand my life, they still wanna hear about it,
Right.
which is huge for
Yeah.
me. So,
So many people care about you as a person.
yeah, that has become apparent, like, over the years. And we have a phenomenal babysitter who's been with us since my twins were little, and she's my age, and she has been there through Case's diagnosis, and he adores her.
Oh, wow.
And she adores him back. And, at a point in our lives where, like, Emma and Beck don't need sitters anymore. They're old enough now they can be left alone, but
Mm.
Case always needs a sitter. Um, she will come and watch him for the weekend. We've been able to take trips together, go away for the night, and she'll take care of him. And she spoils him and takes him to get Chick-fil-A and takes him to get ice cream. And that's been huge for us.
I can imagine how
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Just to just to be able to go away, you and TJ, and celebrate your anniversary or your
Right.
birthday.
Right. Which we take for granted, and I don't mean to knock other people that have typical because, we say in the autism world, neurotypical, which would be more like my neurotypical kids like Emma and Beck, and then Case is neurodiverse. It's not easy just to I'm still looking for a babysitter when he's 12 years old. When he's 15, I'm still gonna need somebody to watch him. So to pick up and go, I can't just leave him with my mom and dad. Like, my parents are older, he's a lot.
Mhm.
So it's not easy for us just to go away. And then when we do go away, it's a long list of, well, he does this and he does this and he takes this. Where Linda knows him. So I don't have to do that anymore. She kind of knows, like, basically the gist of things.
Right.
But it's We don't get to go away as often as we can, and it's not easy for us just to go and have a night out to dinner. We've gotta have somebody to come in and watch him because Emma and Beck will watch him for maybe brief periods of time, but, not for a long spurt.
Right. So you can, like, run to the grocery
Right,
store.
yeah, I could be like, "Watch Case for an hour, I'm gonna go run and do this, I'll run and do that," and they will, they're great about it. We're gonna have to pay them a little bit, but, they will, like, we've gone down like, we live in Zilly, so we're able to go down to Coffin Tavern and have dinner one night. We pay them each $20 and they watch their brother, and they do really well with him, they really do.
Right.
But they can't do it all the time,
Right.
so
Right. And, you know, I think we all understand why,
yeah,
right?
yes.
Um, how do you manage Emma and Beck's activities? You know, like, I'm sure that they're in sports or
Yeah, so Beck plays football, which is lovely because that's after school and he can ride the activity bus home.
Mm,
Emma does theater, but we have neighborhood girls that are in theater, so we all carpool together, which is awesome. It's tough because when somebody has an event, Beck has a football game, we both can't go. It's too much for Case to sit at a football game for 2+ hours.
right.
Um, so it's kind of like pick and choose. We kind of just one of us goes one week, the other one goes the next week. Emma will have performances. We both can't go at the same time. Now, we definitely could hire somebody to watch Case, but that doesn't always work out. Not everybody's always available. So it's kind of like it's very hard for us to go to those things as a family because Case isn't going to sit in a theater and watch a performance for an hour. He's going to be loud. So it's sometimes we just pick the easier route. It's not always the best route, but I'll go to one performance. Yeah, we'll go to the other performance and we'll just swap back and forth. So it's not ideal. And sometimes it sucks, but it's just the way that it is. And there's certain things we can push him to do, and there's certain things we know that it's just not worth it. Uh, like the movie theater. We can't
Right.
he could go to the movie theater, but he's gonna annoy every other person in that theater because he just can't be quiet. He just doesn't know how to be quiet. Activities, we kinda got it down pat. We're just, for the help of carpooling and, being able to be in 7 places at once.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Case loves to ride in the car, so anytime I have to go pick somebody up, we do along for the ride. As long as I get him some Chick-fil-A, he's fine.
Good. He sounds like my husband. He loves Chick-fil-A. Um, is he on any medications?
Yes, he is. For a long time, I was, so Case sees a regular pediatrician for all of his physical health issues. If he has a fever or anything like that, he has a developmental pediatrician. So she specifically deals with anything autism related. So any behaviors. And so we started seeing her. I don't know how old he was when we started taking him to see Dr. Ziss. And we try to go the natural route. We're just like, we have biggest issues with autism. Well, at least in our family, there's a lot of like, I had stimming. I don't know if you know what stimming is. It's kind of like
Mm.
every child is different in how they stim. Some kids spin, some kids will maybe flap their hands. Case likes to fidget with little items with his hands. It kind of is
Okay.
a way to kind of help them self regulate.
Mm.
But we have a lot of sleep issues. Sleep started to become, as he got older, it was the falling asleep part. He's got some anxiety. To answer your question, eventually started to go the route. He takes 2 medications at night to help him calm down, and also to help with anxiety before bedtime. So, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, one's clonidine, and the other one is hydroxyzine.
Okay.
So,
Do you find that any foods bother him? I know some of my friends with neurodivergent children, um, have a problem with, like, red
oh,
dye.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Um, for instance, he used to love if he would go to the grocery store, he would see Lucky Charms cereal. And, sometimes as a treat, I would get it for him, and they have all those little colored marshmallows,
Right.
and his poop would be green, and he would be off the walls, like, just completely, like, emotional, up and down, crazy running around, and so definitely the food dyes, we've had to be and he's a extremely selective eater. There's maybe a handful of things that I know that he'll eat on a regular basis. So not to say that I've eliminated red dyes, it's just there are not a lot of things that he will eat now anyhow that have them in them.
Okay.
So I would say that's probably the only thing that I've noticed has been artificial dyes that affect him. As far as they say some kids with autism, a lot of uh, groups that I follow, they eliminate dairy,
Mhm.
um, and wheat. I don't know how we would ever eliminate gluten because he
Yeah,
lives off of pasta and bread.
that's a big food group there.
Yeah, it's huge for him. But he had some testing done. He doesn't have any kind of intolerance to dairy. We try to cut back on the amount of gluten that he eats because I know that it's not great for the gut.
Mhm.
Um, because they're making a lot of connections between the gut and brain health and things like that. Um, so we try to get him to eat potatoes, but he won't eat any vegetables or fruit at all anymore. Like,
Wow.
not a one. And when he was little, we had to keep him from eating bananas and strawberries and stuff, and now he does not touch a fruit or a vegetable and nothing green.
Wow.
Veggie straws, he will not eat the green ones.
No, do you then give him a supplement,
Oh, well, I
or will he
tried. Yeah.
won't eat that either?
He
Yeah.
also won't take any medication. So the medication he takes at bedtime, they have to be crushed up and put in orange juice, and that's the only way he'll take them. Other than that, if he has any kind of an infection, ear infection, he hasn't had it for years, but he used to have to go get injections in his legs for antibiotics because he won't take antibiotics. He won't take anything by mouth. But I did finally find a multivitamin, and I found it through Facebook, and it's like Ella something, and it's a flavorless powdered vitamin that
Oh,
we're able
wow.
to put into his orange juice. And so that's what we've been doing.
That's
I don't know if
amazing.
it's working or not, but it's got to be better than nothing at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I know moms with really picky eating children. You just feel better as a mom saying like, "Okay, well, you're gonna only eat hot dogs and macaroni and cheese. I am sliding in a multivitamin."
Oh,
And
100%.
cross
Yeah.
my fingers that
Yeah.
it
It's gotta
actually
be
does
better than
something.
nothing at all.
Right.
Here's the problem, with autism, it's such a broad spectrum. There's children of all different abilities and walks of life, and, you know, they say, "Eliminate this, eliminate that," and it worked for my kid, and I kudos to those parents that were able to do that were able to completely change the way that they eat
Mhm.
and the way that their kids eat. But for our house, it's a little bit more difficult. But with that being said, there's so many people that were like, "Oh, well, he'll eat it if he's hungry enough." No, he won't.
Mm-mm.
We could put food on his tray. He will not. He would rather starve than eat something that he doesn't like or doesn't like the texture of. So no, he won't eat when he's hungry. He just will not eat. And some people don't understand that at all. And so at that point, I'm at the point now where I'm like, if he's gonna eat what he likes, at least he's eating. He's very small for his age,
Mhm.
but as far as height, but I'm not gonna deprive him of something, like, no, he doesn't eat Chick-fil-A all the time.
Right.
No, like, that's probably, like, once or twice a week, maybe, but I just don't think that withholding things from him or forcing him there's no way I can force him to eat anything. There's just no way, and he's not gonna do it. If you think about, um for him, a potato chip always tastes like a potato chip, but a raspberry doesn't always taste like a raspberry. A grape doesn't always taste like a grape. Every time you eat a grape, it tastes different. And blueberries and even carrots, they always taste different. There's nothing consistent about it. With Case, it's always about consistency. So why wouldn't he eat the things that he knows that are going to taste the same all the time?
Right.
So, like, he loves Alshine popsicles. So we're like, yay, fruit. There's real strawberries in there. So it's just
Yeah.
and it kind of makes sense if you think about it. To him, it's like, why would I didn't like that last time I had it. Why would I eat it again?
Right.
It tasted funny to me.
Mhm.
So
So what are some misconceptions about autism that you wish people knew or more people?
I would say the one thing with him being, for so long when he was going through speech therapy and he was labeled as nonverbal, I never really thought he understood what we were saying to him, but he understands everything. It was only when we started noticing we would say like, "Hey, Case, why don't you take the trash out or whatever?" And he would grab the trash and he would take it out. And so we started realizing like he may not be able to express what he's feeling or be able to say everything, but he understands every word that's being said around him. And so I would say that's one thing is don't always assume that they can't hear you
Mhm.
or that they don't understand what you're saying. I wish people in general, and I think that it's getting better. I think with more awareness and more kids being diagnosed, um, people are becoming more understanding, but I still get a lot of looks at the store. Like if I take him to Costco, I have him sit in the cart. He prefers that, and it makes it easier for me to go take him to Costco.
Right.
But the looks I get from people sometimes, or he makes a lot of noises. It's just something about him. He just makes a lot of odd noises. And the reactions I get from people, the abruptness of they stop and they stare at him, like older people, and I get it. Like I'm so used to it, but I
Mhm.
just wish people would just mind their own business. You know what I mean? Like, and not worry about
Yes.
what I'm doing with my kid in the
Right.
cart. That's, I don't know if that's rude to say or not, but I just wish that some people wouldn't, grown ass people wouldn't stare, like
Yeah.
just kind of, I don't know. Like I think now that I have a child that has special needs, I'm more aware of other children that I see out in public with special needs. Um, so I don't sometimes I make strike up a conversation. Maybe they have a special stroller that they're using or a wheelchair or something, and ask them where they got it. Like for 4th of July, I would always take Case. I live in Zilly, so it was always busy. So I'd put him in a stroller, and he was too big for the stroller. And you would think that people were like that I had like the laziest shot on earth, and I'm like, no, this is easy for me because he's gonna run into traffic if I don't have him contained in something. And he felt safer in there. He would
Right.
shut the thing if it was overwhelming for him. He could shut the visor, and he could kind of like just keep to himself. Um, so and does that answer your question?
Yes.
And I think that the schools are doing a good job. We're starting to see more and more of inclusion in the classroom. Um, but not to have this stigma that just because he's autistic doesn't make him weird. Like he's just a fun-loving kid. He
Mhm.
loves to do everything that you love to do. He loves to ride bikes and motorcycles and quads and swim and all that stuff. He just has a different way about it, I guess.
Right. Right.
So,
And he's in, um, what grade?
so he's in 6th grade. Yeah.
Is he in 6th grade, Seneca Valley with his
Oh
sister?
no,
No.
no. He was in Seneca from kindergarten till 4th grade. Seneca was great. We live in a pretty good district, but I just felt like he needed more out of his day. So we pursued other options. And now he goes to school in Beaver. It's called New Horizons,
Okay.
and it's run by the Beaver Valley Intermediate Unit. And it's great. It's a little school. They do have first through 12th grade, but only 200 students. They're all multiple supports is kind of like the terminology they're using this day to kind of cover the spectrum of students that are in the classroom.
Okay.
So 8 kids to a classroom. Um, that's a wonderful school. Like the staff is amazing. These teachers and aides, and it's been really good for him. So he's about a half hour bus ride. And Seneca transports him.
Okay.
And, they've got, like well, honestly, this year, they ended up having to have a satellite school because they found mold. They were doing some remodeling in his school, and they found mold, so they had to relocate the kids to a whole 'nother building in Midland. It's been kinda crazy, but the actual school, they're in the middle of getting rid of the mold. They found some asbestos in the tile. Just kinda opened a can of worms. It's an older building,
Wow.
but they
Yeah.
had 2 sensory gyms, they had 2 sensory rooms, they have a pool, so swimming was one of his specials. It was just they get the kids out in the community. Every classroom does a community field trip every month. They have the Boy Scouts come, the Girl Scouts come, they do, different tasks with them, learning how to tie ropes, things like that. They have Museum on the Move from the Carnegie comes once a month and brings little handheld exhibits that the kids can touch and feel. It's been really good. So, we've
Wow.
been there probably about 2.5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. This will be his second year. He
That's
kinda started
great.
halfway.
And he gets to enjoy all those different experiences, and it's fun.
Yeah. It's fun. He's just not for so long, we had him in public school, and they were kind of, pushing the academics, and he was not excelling in them. Nothing was changing, and he was spending less and less time in the gen ed classroom and more time in the multiple supports classroom, which is fine, but, there was the groups of our class sizes were getting bigger, and kind of his day was like, oh, I would run into somebody who knew Case, or their kid was in Case's gen ed classroom. Like, oh, they saw Case. He was delivering food bags today. I just didn't. I don't know. I kind of felt like maybe his day wasn't as meaningful. Like he needed more movement in his day. He needed just more trained staff. Nothing. It was nothing against Seneca.
Right.
It was just our choice.
Right.
They wanted to keep him. They loved him, but they were like, sure, we'll explore other options.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a large school
yes.
district, and, I mean, if you could just make it a little bit smaller, more, geared towards his needs,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah. And that's exactly
Right?
what we did. And it's been really good. And he's got like this great van driver who I went to school with that,
Oh, cool.
knows us. And there's only like 4 or 5 kids on his van, and they pick him up right at the house and take him to school, bring him home. And it's just more movement throughout his day, which
Mhm.
is good, which he needs. He needs a lot of
Yeah.
movement.
So what brings you joy in motherhood?
So you had asked me about how my other two interact with Case and how they communicate with him. What right now, with my kids getting older, with Emma and Beck being, typical, um, when I see their compassion and their, I guess, like Beck came home the other day. He just joined the Y. He's going to the Y to work out. And he said, oh, there's a kid there that goes to school with me and he's autistic. And we helped him. He worked out with us and we invited him to work out with us. And were showing him how to use some of the equipment. And he's really cool, mom. And I thought, oh, I'm doing something right. Like I'm exposing them to this, and not saying that little moment brought me some joy. Like I've done something good,
Mhm.
by exposing them. They've been exposed to Case. They kind of know when they come across somebody that isn't typical,
Mhm.
how to interact with them. So I was like, okay, I did a good job. You guys are doing good. So yeah, that brought me joy, and seeing them grow up, it's kind of bittersweet, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. You had said something earlier before we actually turned on the, platform that you will have Case with you for the rest of his life, the rest of your lives, and then if you and TJ pass, his care falls back on his siblings. That's huge.
It is huge. And I use the word burden because I don't want to make it sound like Case is a burden. Autism is a burden on families. For our family, it's been a really, really rough road just trying to navigate everything that comes with it. Um, and I think about aging, and you and I talked about there's some kids that are autistic that live very full lives, that they
Mhm.
can go on and they can go to college and they can get degrees and they can hold down jobs. That is not Case. He will never do that. And I'm thrilled for families that have that opportunity. But for Case, that's not how his life's going to pan out. We need to prepare for that. How do I prepare for that? I have no idea. Um, do I want that to fall on Emma and Beck? I don't know. My husband and I have talked about it, and I think, God, like that's not really that's a lot to ask. And I not that I've even asked them yet, but
Right.
I think about how autism has affected our lives and what the limitations it has put on us as far as just being able to go places and do things together. Do I want that for them? But what is the option for him? Like at this point in time, I think about him being 12, but my God, in a blink of an eye, he's going to be 21. And then, I'm almost 50. How many more years do I have? So my hope is that maybe someday down the road there's going to be some kind of amazing long-term care facility that will take him and he can live there and thrive, and that his brother and sister will come and they'll visit him and they'll take him to their homes for holidays. And
Mhm.
because I want them to have wonderful lives, and I want them to have families, and I want them to have children, and significant others, and not have the stresses that we have experienced. Um, it's been having a child with autism is such a high stress. They say, I read a quote once that said it's like being in combat all the time. It is extremely stressful on your marriage. We have had extremely highs and lows in our marriage because of the stresses just dealing with Case. And I say Case, but dealing with the autism.
Right.
And I don't want that kind of stress for my children and their future families. So I don't know what that looks like, and that keeps me up at night, and I think it keeps a lot of parents with autism up at night. What happens to them when you pass?
Right.
Because I'm not saying that Emma and Beck wouldn't do it, but am I going to have to ask them to do it, or are they going to willingly want to do it? To have him live with them for the rest of their lives, like, is that fair? I don't know. Like, is that selfish of me to say, like, no, that's not fair for them to have to worry about that, and I don't want them to worry about it now, but I don't know what's gonna happen. I have no
Yeah.
idea. If I had all the money in the world, I'd have this great facility that I could build, that would have everything that he loves to do, and I could hire the most amazing staff. Um, Maybe someday that will exist unless I win the lottery. I don't know.
But do you play it a lot?
Yes, that's exactly TJ's like, "Oh, you only win if you play it," and
No.
TJ plays it. Very true. So, I
Yes.
don't know. I don't know. I wish I had the answer. I'm hoping that it comes to me someday. I wanna
Yeah.
know what other people are doing, because we were vacationing in the Florida Keys,
Mhm.
and we were at this campground. I met this family, this woman, she had a son who was autistic, and he was older, and she's like, "Oh, he lives in a group home somewhere, I don't know where it was," and she said, "We go and visit him on the weekends, or he comes home on the weekends." And she was living her best life in Florida or whatever, but, like, I don't know how I hear
What's the
horror stories
cost?
about
Right.
group oh, yeah, the cost of something
Yes.
like that, and let alone, like, what are the quality of people that are taking care of him? Did I just you
Right.
just hear horror stories, and I don't want that for
Right.
him.
And I guess it's the world of the unknown.
Yeah. I can't even fathom what it's gonna be like in 10 years from now when he graduates, high school,
Mhm.
because they have to keep him until he's 21. Well, they don't have to, that's, like, they can keep him until he's 21, and then after that,
Then
he's
it's on
done.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I'm thinking, like, so many different, like, insurance-wise, I'm sure you have a will or a trust or something
Yeah, so we have everything in a trust right now.
that, you
Um
know, like, if anything happens to you, this
Right.
it's all designated out.
Yes, yeah, and we actually just did that within the last, like, 2 years, that everything and then there's, uh he will be eligible for Social Security.
Mhm.
There's also, like, PA-able account, which is supposedly not supposed to affect your Social Security, and you can put money into that. So we've kind of explored all those avenues, so it's great, but, like, at the same time, where is he gonna live?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, where is he gonna end up?
Mm,
I don't even know. I'm
yeah.
hoping that there's someday something will happen, and I'll have that answer, so get back to me in 10 years.
Okay. And if anybody knows anything,
Yes, please let me
please
know.
reach out.
I'll send my phone number, you can text
Yes,
me.
yes,
I
absolutely.
have to say it's been really hard to meet people. I don't know a lot of people that have kids with autism. Tried to branch out, meeting people. I can't really meet people from Case's school because he goes to school half an hour away, so I can't really meet families that way.
Right.
I found a lot of support groups through Facebook, and things like that, which have been nice to kind of bounce ideas off of problems or whatever. But I don't have anybody in the community that has a child with autism that says like, "Hey, why don't you come over?" I have not been able to find those people.
Right. And it's not like there aren't play groups,
Right.
right? Like, when the kids were little, you could go to, like, a play group,
Right.
and you had commonalities with this
And then you
mom
could
or
just let your
whatever.
kids run
Right.
amok in the
Exactly.
playground. Where
Right.
like I can't do that with Case. I couldn't even. It's like if he was here right now, I would just be like, "Oh, okay, let me. He's getting into that. He's getting into that, or he's going out there." Like there's just no. And we have friends that have kids that are great, and we can all get together, and Case will play around them and interact with them, but it's still not the same. Just meaning like we don't have the luxury of just sitting back and letting him do whatever he wants. He's gotta be watched all the time.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
that in itself is not relaxing
No.
ever.
And I assume that other parents with autistic children are doing the same thing.
Right.
So it's not like they're out and about.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And every kid is different. So,
Mhm.
then there was one year a little boy rode his van, and I would run into his mom at the grocery store, and he had been going to school with Case for a couple years, and I'd be like, "Oh, how's so and so?" And he was afraid of swimming and afraid of dogs, like just complete opposite of Case. And, everything about him. And I was like, oh, I guess that wouldn't probably work out too well. Like,
Right.
like he just was the exact opposite of Case as far as sensory wise. He didn't like anything loud. He didn't even like the lawnmower, where
Mm.
Case was like, I want to ride the lawnmower, like I want to ride the quad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, my husband has been amazing as far as uh, teaching him to ride the quad, which has been kind of bittersweet because he rips around the backyard. Um, got him to ride a two-wheel bicycle, which a lot of autistic kids can do. He doesn't really know how to use the brakes, which then led to him, like, taking off down the street and me having to call the police because I didn't know where he went,
Oh, wow.
but he takes him kayaking with him. He loves the water. My husband has a tandem kayak. We'll take him kayaking up the Slippery Rock Creek. We have a whitewater raft. Case loves a whitewater raft, loves to camp. We have a motorhome he loves to travel in. He would lay in the top bunk of the motorhome for hours, just looking out the window, drive cross country. I mean, he absolutely loves it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So,
Amazing.
it's not all I don't sit here and make it sound like it's all bad. It's stressful, but he's got qualities about him that are amazing. Um, but, at the same time, it's, uh, it's not all we were talking earlier about, the perceptions of people on Instagram and stuff,
Mhm.
how we perceive people's lives they seem so perfect, and how we are comparing ourselves to other people all the
Mhm.
time. And I was doing that with people with families with autism. Like, well, their kids, holding a job down, or he's going to college, and it made me really sad. I was always like, thought, God, what am I, like this sucks, like, why do I have it so shitty? But then I look at things that we are able to do
Right.
that kind of still track with who we are as a family. Yeah, do Emma and Beck wanna go to Punta Cana and stay in a resort? Sure, who doesn't? But, are we able to take cross-country trips and visit national parks? And maybe we don't do the really, really long hikes. Maybe we've got to entice Case with M&Ms or let him do it barefoot, but we're doing it,
Right.
and he really loves it. So, we're doing things, maybe just not in I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Maybe not in the traditional way, but
Mhm. No, I think that that's great. I mean, not everyone takes their kids to Disney or wants to take their children
right.
to Disney. Um, you know, w I I would love to do a cross-country trek in a RV. I think our children would have loved that when they were younger. So I feel that what you guys are doing is amazing, for all of the children,
Yeah.
you
I'm
know?
hoping someday that they will look back on it and say, "Wow,
I'm
we were
sure.
really lucky to be able to go and see all that."
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
it's what works for us. In Case we'll sleep in the motorhome where he doesn't sleep in hotel rooms. I we try to do things with Emma and Beck separate to kind of make up for that,
Mhm.
because we can't really do hotel rooms, and we did do the Disney thing, and that kinda ruined him for hotel rooms for life. I don't know why, what happened, something triggered him or whatever, but we do, like, try to do trips with them. Like, I took Emma to New York last year, and TJ and Beck will take their annual ski trip. They're going to Tahoe this year. So we try to do things with them to kind of maybe make up for it or compensate for it, I don't know,
Mhm.
to make them feel because so much of our time is devoted to Case. Like, it's hard for us to even sit down and play a game as a family because as soon it's like he knows, like, "Alright, I'm gonna go do something bad," like he's gonna go and get into something or try to escape the house or whatever.
Mhm.
So, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. And I've never asked anybody to feel sorry for me. It's not what I
Mm-mm.
want. It's just the reality of it? It's just the reality of our life. And I don't think a lot of people know because they don't see it. And when you don't have a child with autism or a child that has special needs, parenting in general is hard. We doubt everything we do, everything we say, everything we give them. But it's just a different kind of hard. It's just kind of coming to terms with, once again, mourning that child that we thought we were gonna have and the relationship we thought we were gonna have with them, and always wondering, like, what would he have been like? What would he have been interested in? What would he have done? Um, and understanding, like, I haven't slept I still don't sleep a full night, like, he still does not. He's usually up at least once a night, most nights. Um, so I don't need people to, like, feel sorry for me. It's just, like, that's our life,
Right.
if you wanna be part of it, come on in.
Yeah. What's one more,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah. I feel like you touched on parenting in itself is difficult. Just being a parent
And nobody
to
tells you. I feel like nobody
no.
tells you that. You think it's gonna be, "I'm gonna have this baby, it's gonna be beautiful and amazing," and then you're like, "Oh my god, like, I had no idea."
Yeah. This kinda
And I don't know
sucks.
how people do it, like, my mom moved in with me when I had the twins, like, we have such a great, support
Mhm.
group, and I have, amazing friends, so there's some people that don't even have that are doing it all on their own, and I don't know how. I don't know
Yeah.
how they're doing it
Yeah.
because I'm tired and I've got a team,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. So I'm gonna turn the page.
okay.
Um, Speaking of tired, this is the second story of Amy Cooper. And I'm sure you have a hell of a lot more than just 2. Um, but the second story involves your husband. Um, so can you take us back to when TJ was diagnosed with AFib?
Okay, so as if things weren't already stressful enough, we were kind of piecing this together the other night because COVID happened, and then I feel like from 2020 to like 2023, nobody knows what happened.
Nobody knows what
So
happened.
it was, I want to say it had to have been 2021. He went for a regular physical or something his regular physician's office, and they're like, "You are in AFib, your heart rate," and if in AFib, I have it here, it's just an irregular rapid heart rhythm. So he was kind of like all over the place. So they sent him to a cardiologist, and yeah, so that was kind of the beginning of what we didn't realize was going to be this, like, very traumatic next 2 years. So that was he lived with AFib for 2 years. We saw a cardiologist, they put him on medication to kinda keep it under control, um, and his heart rate would fluctuate. He'd go in for a colonoscopy and they'd be like, "Holy cow, your heart rate's really high." And he's like, "Yeah, I have AFib." So he just thought it was just something he was going to live with.
Right.
They talked about doing a cardiovert, which where they shock the heart back into
Mhm.
rhythm, or doing an ablation to kind of scar that part of the heart. And that, to him, that sounded super scary. And he's
Right.
like, "I don't know if I want to have this done." And so it was kind of like something that they talked about, but we didn't know if it was urgent or not. It was just kind of like, "Okay, you have AFib. You're taking medication for it. We'll be fine. We'll be fine." And then summer of 2023, he just went downhill.
So we were talking a little bit before I hit the play button. Um, Lead me up to the downhill.
So it was like right before the 4th of July, because my son turned his birthday is July 3rd, and he started getting sick, and he was kind of like fatigued, like he had the flu. Fatigue, I don't know if there was vomiting or not, but it was almost just like a stomach bug kind of.
Mhm.
And I don't know, he was gonna be sick for about 2 or 3 days. And I said, "Oh, you better go to the emergency room just to make sure, because you know how they say like signs of heart attack can be flu-like symptoms or whatever." So
Right.
he went to the ER. Um, they kinda were like, "Yeah, you're in AFib, but you've always been in AFib. Um, like, we don't think there's anything going on with your heart, nothing abnormal, maybe you have a virus." So then, like, he felt a little better. We celebrated Beck's birthday, and so he was, like, feeling better, and I had a trip planned to Greece the following weekend with my girlfriends, and then he just kind of was like 4th of July came around and he was like, "I'm exhausted. I feel like crap." And he was in bed all day. And I was like, "Something's not right. What's going on? Do I need to cancel this trip? I don't know." So then he was like back to the emergency room. They put him in, so everything's kind of jumbled when I think about it. They sent him to the hospital. He was in the hospital for like a day. They were trying to get him on different medication. He had like some swelling, like it was definitely, or maybe the swelling came later. I can't remember, because then we thought that he was in a good place, like, he was starting to feel better, so I had this trip planned, so then I left, and I went to Greece for 10 days, and he never really got better. He just kind of was, like, super tired. Obviously, he was parenting 3 kids, and I was gone, and he just wasn't really, really tired, but he wasn't sleeping well. So, yeah, it was just kind of like in and out of the hospital, no one really saying like, "Oh, it's his heart." Just kind of like he went to his regular physician. They're like, "You probably have a virus. It's just really taking its toll on you." So we were like, "Okay." So I went to Greece and he survived. I came home and he still wasn't feeling well. And then it was a matter of then we noticed, like, the swelling in his legs, and he, like, walked up the steps one day, and he, like, basically fainted, and I was like, "Okay, we're going to the emergency room." And that was, like, our last visit to emergency room because they ended up keeping him overnight, and they're like, "Well, maybe it's your gallbladder, or maybe it's your and I was like, "Oh,
Holy moly.
alright." Like, "You're seeing a cardiologist for your heart, we're gonna try these other things," and that was, like, August 1st? The night before August 1st. So we went to the emergency room, they admitted him to the hospital. And then they were gonna run some tests. So I went home and I was like, "All right, I'll be back in the morning." Came back in the morning and he was like starting to tank that whole day. And then, yeah, that just it all snowballed from there.
Wow. Did he go into a coma? What
So
happened
so
then?
I came back that morning thinking, "Oh, they're gonna say like his gallbladder needs taken out or something, like there's something going on." And then as when I got there, he like, deteriorated rapidly, like, throughout the day. Like, they were having trouble finding his pulse.
Oh my.
He couldn't stay awake. So, at that point we were at Passman at the time. So, I'm just sitting in his hospital room like, "What the hell is going on? Like, what do you mean you can't find his pulse? Like, what is happening?"
Right.
And nobody ever said he was in heart failure, but nobody was saying it. So, then they were like, "We need to admit him to the ICU. We can't find a pulse." So, then we were down another floor. And at this point, my sister comes, my good friend from high school. Kiki comes, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. Like there is just kind of like every half an hour something bad was happening. So they took him down to the ICU, and they're using like old methods to find like these crazy old like instruments trying to find his pulse and stuff. And then finally they're like, we need to intubate him. Like his heart is not pumping. We don't know what's going on. At that point, they were talking about doing this cardiovert, like, the next day, to shock his heart into rhythm, and I'm thinking, "Okay, it's gonna fix it, we're gonna be fine." But he was literally dying, like, his heart was failing. So, they had to intubate him, and, like, they're telling me this, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. You're gonna intubate him." She's like, "Yes, we need his body to rest. We need to figure out what's going on with his heart." And I'm like, "Okay, everything's kinda crumbling apart right now." Like, I'm just kind of like, I fully understand what's happening.
Right.
And then they intubated him, and then I don't know how many hours later, they're like, "We need to lifeline him to Presby. He needs to be on ECMO. His heart is not pumping." I don't know if you know what ejection fraction is, and I wrote it down because I at the point time I didn't know. It's, ejection fraction is basically how much output your heart it's basically how well your heart is pumping blood.
Okay.
And usually like 50 to 70% is good, below 40% is considered heart failure. He was in the teens.
Oh my
That's how
gosh.
poorly his heart was functioning. And they at that point, they're like, we can't do anything more for him here. We have to light him to Presby. He needs to be on ECMO." So if ECMO is a machine that basically, they put cannulas in your legs and they take your blood, oxygenate it, and then put it back in you. And, they're like, "We need to do it now." So I was like, "Okay." So I was not that calm.
No.
So my sister and I my girlfriend was still with me at the time and my sister, and, it's like after 10 o'clock at night, and they're like, "You need to meet us at Presby." And so my sister and I got in the car and drove to Presby, and thank God in the heavens that we live so close to such amazing hospitals
Mm.
because I don't think he would have survived the helicopter ride if we lived any further.
Wow.
Because he was at Passivan at the time, which is Presby was probably maybe I don't know how far Passivan and North Hills is to Presby,
Mhm.
but, it was probably a 10-minute helicopter ride.
Right.
Yeah. So they life flighted him to Presby to put him on ECMO.
Wow. And how long was he on that?
So he was on ECMO. So he they life-flighted him and they put him on ECMO right away. Like I was allowed to see him for maybe 2 minutes. They're like, we need to do it now. He was on ECMO for let's see, about a week. Um, so he was in like an highly intensive care unit at Presby in Pittsburgh, in case anybody of your viewers don't know where that's at,
Yeah.
Pittsburgh, PA. Um, And so he was on ECMO for about a week, and then during that time, it was kind of like, "Well, we don't really know what's going on. We think that he might need a heart transplant." And I was like, What are you talking about? What is going on?" Like, this was all just like I was just flabbergasted, for lack of better words. I was completely shocked, and it was not anything that I had even remotely thought about
Right.
because, um so during that week that he was, in this intensive care unit in Presby, it was just a matter of, "Okay, well, we're gonna try this, and we're gonna try that," and we had doctors coming in and out every day, so I was there every day, um, for the whole month that he was in the ho I maybe missed 2 days when he was there.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so he was on ECMO for about a week, and then that's when they determined that he needed a heart transplant, but there's a process involved in getting listed for a heart transplant. They don't just list anybody. Um, it's, uh, the surgeon, the doctor that had his case was like, "I'm going to push for this transplant," 'cause they meet, you know, say they meet once a week or whatever, the doctors get together, and they talk about their patients and who needs a heart transplant, and then they kind of categorize them based on their need, and they put them in, um, stages. So, like, you can be God, how many stages are there? There's 1, meaning immediate need, down to, like, maybe there's 10. I can't remember exactly how many there are, how many levels, but he was put into 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, in the meantime, they were like, "Well, we'll try this. Maybe he'll go home with an LVAD." So, an LVAD is kind of like when they came into the hospital room with this LVAD thing that they wanted to put him, he was like, "No fucking way." It was literally like this metal pump that they put in your heart. They open you up, put it on your heart, and then it has like a wire, and then you have to carry this case around. And that's what it's like, a battery operated pump for your heart.
Oh my
But you
gosh.
have to, so some people are on those for a very, if they aren't listed at like a high level, they
Mhm.
might have to be on an LVAD for a year or whatever,
Holy
depending on the
cow.
severity of your case. And he was like, "No way in hell do I wanna wear that thing." So luckily, he wasn't a candidate for that because his case was too severe. Then they put him on a Impella device. So basically, it's a little chip that goes in. It went in through, up here in his shoulder, goes into the heart, and it beats your heart for you pretty much. So they implanted that, and then at that point, he was listed as like pretty high up. Is that
Mhm.
right after they put the Impella in is whenever they met with his doctor was like, "Listen, I'm going to go in and put in for him that he needs a heart transplant." And I was like, "Okay. Oh my God. All right." And then they transferred him to like another ICU unit, kind of like a step up because at that point they didn't need the ECMO anymore and they had this Impella in. So he had that device in for about 2 weeks and he was feeling great. His heart was pumping normally. He was like starting to like get his color back. He was really healthy at that point. And then they listed him for the heart transplant. And I wanna say it was like 4 days that he got a heart.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was he able to come home or he
No, he had to stay
stayed
in the
in the
hospital. So
hospital?
they tried to take him off the Impella to see if and his heart just would not, it was not working. So he had to stay in the hospital with this device on him until the heart transplant. And then when they call you, when they're like, "We got a heart for you," you don't know when it's coming.
Right.
Usually when you're listed, his status was a 2, so I don't even know people that are status 1, like how quickly they get a heart.
Right.
So, yeah, it was a matter of days, and he was in there for 3 weeks before he had a heart transplant, but it was just, the matter of getting through the ECMO, getting listed for the transplant, and then actually getting the transplant. So he was there 3 weeks before he actually had the heart transplant, which in the grand scheme of things is really not that great. I'm sure when you're a patient, like you're stuck in the hospital for a
Right.
few weeks. It's a
Right.
lot different. But yeah, I was just a matter of 4 or 5 days before he got a heart.
So you're waiting basically for someone to pass.
Right. Yeah.
How was that emotionally?
I don't know if I even like he was feeling so good and he was like I was able at that point I was going in every day to see him minus except for that 2 weeks that he was feeling really good I was able to take a day. I was like I need to stay with the kids. They
Mhm.
were home. They were in between my sister and my friends and stuff. Um I think we were just kind of like, "Okay, okay, this is good. This is gonna be good." Like, I wasn't even thinking about that part of it. Like, somebody's got to pass away for him to get a heart. I was just kind of like, "He's feeling good. He looks great." I took in, like, a laptop and we watched a movie, and I took some Ironborn pizza in one night and stuff like that. So, like, we were kind of glad that we had this little bit of a reprieve because he had been so sick.
Mhm.
Um, so it was kind of, like, just very surreal. I didn't even really think about it until we actually got the call. That there was that they had a viable donor. Then you were like, "Who is this?" Like, what has happened that now that he's able to get this heart?
Right.
And it was just a matter of hours, that by the time they had to go and there's a lot involved. They have to be certain, they have to fit your height, weight, like you have to have certain criteria to get that perfect heart. You
Oh,
can't
wow.
just take any heart from anybody. It's got to fit your stature, things
Okay, I
like
didn't
that.
know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. But it kind of makes sense. So it's had to be someone similar to TJ's height, similar to TJ's weight. It could have been male or female. They ask you if you want to take a compromised heart, meaning people that are Hep B positive or no, Hep C positive.
Mhm.
You have to, like, sign a waiver because sometimes, like, drug users,
Okay.
they actually are good candidates for heart transplants, but they end up dying because of other causes. But there's a good chance that if you take a Hep C heart, then you will definitely have hepatitis. So then you have to, like, go through a series of medications in order to cure that or whatever. So they ask you if you want to take a compromised heart, and that will speed up the process. So we
Mhm.
didn't really know what we were getting into, but yeah, so it actually happened pretty quickly, a lot quicker than I thought. They actually transplanted him the night before my kids started school.
Oh my
It was like
gosh.
August 21st. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And how long was that surgery?
Oh, let's see. He went in at like 5 p.m. I remember getting to the hospital, being able to see him before the surgery. It was very quick. I want to say it was like either 5 at night or 7. I can't remember the exact time. And then I think that he was done. It was like a 7-hour surgery.
Wow.
Yeah, so, like, I just sat in the waiting room, and then, like, every hour you can call the nurses, and they'll tell you how it's going. So, like, every half hour, I'd go to the phone, and I would call the number, and I'd be like, "I'm checking on TJ Cooper." They'd be like, "Everything's going well. The doctor's doing this, this, and this." Thank God there are doctors out there in the world that do those things for a living. God, I can't even imagine.
I cannot either.
Yeah, so they had to go and look at the heart, make sure it was a good heart, and then bring the heart.
And he was 48.
48, yeah, yeah. So, in the grand scheme of things, he was rather young, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Right.
yes, people get heart transplants all the time, but when this was all happening and he was getting very sick and we were in and out of the hospital, and then finally when he was put on ECMO, and we were at Presby and I had doctors coming to me saying, "Was he a drug user?" I'm like, I don't can't tell when people ask me, how many doctors ask me, like, "Why is he here? What happened?" I don't know. He was an AFib. I don't know what happened. Did he use drugs? Was he an alcoholic? No. No. They couldn't comprehend, like, what had happened, like, he didn't have a history of, like, a really bad heart, like, yes, he was an AFib, so they just think that he'd been an AFib for so long that his heart just couldn't take it anymore, and it just basically shut down.
Wow. So it could have been, you know, from birth, there was an issue with his heart,
Yeah, as
something
far as
along the
we know,
way.
there was nothing that, was a definitive answer as to why he went into AFib. He had gotten the COVID vaccine a couple months before, and there was some studies done that it was affecting men at that, around his age group. And his physician's like, could have been, but there's no way to know for sure. And at this point, it doesn't matter anymore
Right.
because you're an AFib. You know what I mean? Like, we've
Right.
got to treat it. It is what it is.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And I mean, he was healthy. He wasn't like overweight or anything like that. Like, and people were just like, "What do you mean he needs a transplant? What's going on?" I'm like, "I have
Right.
no idea." But
Yeah.
thankfully, he was in good physical shape because the recovery, I think, was easier for him
Mhm.
because he was in the hospital. I think he was transplanted on the 21st. He was out of the hospital 10 days later. Oh,
Wow.
they're just turn him around like it's insane.
Get out.
I remember like going home that night. They transplanted him. I stayed until the transplant was over. I went in, I got to see him. He was still completely sedated. I just wanted to make sure everything was on the up and up. Went home, crashed for 4 hours, got up, got my kids ready for school. It was the first day of school. Went back to the hospital and they had him sitting up in a chair. And I was like, and he did not look happy. I mean, like he was like they were, how hospitals are these days. They get you up and
Yes.
move in, but they had him sitting up in a chair and they wouldn't let him have anything to drink. They were giving him ice chips like every hour. He was so pissed.
Oh my.
But yeah, it was 10 days he was home. I mean, he had lost a significant amount of weight, but in the grand scheme of things, he did recover pretty well
Mm.
because he was the youngest guy on the floor because once he was in the ICU for so many days, and they put him up to like a step down unit. And
Mhm.
that's where he did like some of his physical therapy and stuff. And they'd be like, "All right, let's go for a walk." And they'd be like, "Oh, you're killing it." Like you're doing stairs and everything. And he was like determined to get out of there.
Yes. Wow. Once he got home, what was his recovery like?
I went and got so my girlfriend from California had flown in, whenever he first went to the hospital, and so she was staying with us, and so we were prepared, like, I got a recliner for our bedroom and, like, a tray for him to have to eat on, like, I thought, "Okay, he's gonna be bedridden for several days." Nope. The next morning, he came home, like, late afternoon. Next morning, he was like, "Do you guys want breakfast? I'm gonna make breakfast." He was cooking breakfast.
Oh,
He
sh
Yeah, he was but so at home, he wasn't allowed to drive for so many, I think it was 3 months? I don't know. He couldn't drive. He did have to do cardiac rehab, so he had to go out. I had to drive him out to Cranberry, and he had to get cardiac rehab. But he flew through that with flying colors. I mean, he graduated that program really quickly. But he was up and about. Like, he was not bedridden at all when he came home.
So did you sell the recliner?
No, we still have it.
Okay.
It's still there. It's a
No.
nice leather one. I was
Yeah.
like, "I spent a lot of money in that."
Where I read my books now.
Yes.
So with the donor, I know, you met the heart donor's family.
Yes.
How was that?
So, I tell you that I some of the nicest people I have ever met, when he was transplanted, they don't give you a lot of information, not allowed to give you any information about who it was. We just knew that it was a young male. That was
Mhm.
all we were told. Then they give you all this little packet, and they say, "Okay, like, if you wanna reach out to the donor family, you can." You have to go through this organization. You have to do all your communication through this specific organization. So, I was like, "Okay," and they say 1% of people ever have contact with their donors for good reason. It's a truly bittersweet situation. I decided I was gonna write a letter, that we were gonna write a letter. I was gonna help him write a letter to the family because I wanted them to know, like, who they saved and,
Mhm.
young father of 3. Not expecting to hear anything back. So I think, like, it was in the fall. He was transplanted in August. I think I wrote it, like, in October. I think 2 months later, I get a letter back in the mail, and it's from the mom of the
Wow.
donor, and she was like, "Sorry it took me so long to get back to you." And I was like, "She's apologizing to me?" And so that developed a relationship, and we agreed to, everything had to be, like, first name only.
Mhm.
And then we agreed to sign off with the organization, and this moment I can't, it escapes me what it's called. It's like, I don't remember what it is. It's a specific organization that helps you connect with your donor. And we decided to sign off and then exchange personal information. And then we kind of developed this relationship with the mom and the grandma, and they were from Tennessee, and they were having a celebration of life. Last fall, and they invited us down to it. And so TJ and I went down to Nashville and got to meet the mom and the grandma, of Brendan Sokol Jr. is his donor, and they were amazing. They welcomed us with open arms, and they are, um, a family seriously grieving. It was an only child, and
Oh.
he was young, he was 19, and he had a seizure disorder and had a really bad seizure one day and just never came back from it. And, they welcomed us, and we got to meet his friends and their friends, and everybody was so, so kind. And it was our hope that we could help them heal a little bit, by meeting TJ. It's definitely has its awkwardness, you see that it's a family grieving. They've lost, like, their only son, um, and she was a single mom, raised him on her own, and he was her world. And, it's just it's but they have been so amazing. Um, so it was really nice getting a chance to see them and how much that they love him. And we say it's a gift, but it is a gift. Like, I don't know what else to call it, like,
Right.
I just, like, he's here because of him, and that's amazing. That's amazing. And God, if people don't be an organ donor, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right.
be an organ donor because I think that I don't know how many lives he changed, but, as of when we had met them last fall, they had not heard back from anybody. They hadn't heard from, I think maybe there was a kidney or a liver involved, maybe a lung, I can't remember. They were hoping to hear back from maybe some of his other recipients, but they
Mhm.
hadn't yet. So,
Wow. That's
yeah, it was,
that's powerful. That's incredible as a mom, as the donor's family
yeah,
to reach out to you. I mean,
yeah,
that would be, I mean, very
yeah,
difficult.
yeah, and it was, uh but I just knew, like, she was so proud of him,
Mhm.
and, he was her life, and she wanted to talk about him, and I thought if I could give her that opportunity, 100% we'll do that, and it was hard for TJ, just having that guilt, kind of that survivor's guilt, but what do you do when something's out of your control?
Right.
You're no less deserving, of a heart. It's just the way the cards were dealt, it's just what happened. You didn't ask for this to happen,
Mhm.
like it is what it is. And that's been a hard that first year was really hard for him. And getting in touch with them was really hard because
Mhm.
we weren't expecting to hear back. And then it
Right.
was like, wow. So I think we're fortunate that
Were you organ donors before?
I was not for so long. Now I was before TJ's transplant, but when I was younger, I was not. I was only probably within the last 10 years I became an organ donor.
Yeah.
I don't know why I never was. I don't know, like, what that mentality was that why I didn't just check that box.
Right.
But,
Right.
yeah, so
Yeah. And if you're not an organ donor, you should be an organ donor.
yes, 100%. I mean,
Yes.
no, they're not gonna take your life just so they can take your heart or your
Right.
liver, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
there's a lot involved in it, but, I mean, the things that they can do with skin and eyes, and it's quite amazing,
Yes.
and we are lucky that we are so close to such a good transplant hospital. I didn't
Yes.
even realize. Why would anybody know? But
Why would you know?
right. Yeah.
Just being, I mean, who would have thought your 48-year-old husband would need a heart transplant?
Yeah. It's so crazy to even think that it even happened. It just, like, it's so surreal. It's so crazy
Yes.
that we still, like, and I mean, he's good. We're only I keep saying we're only 2 years out, but he's good. Like, he's doing everything that he did before. Yes, he's tired a lot more easy. He gets tired easily. But he's kayaking, he's skiing, he's doing everything that he was doing before, and, uh, you know, eh, they say you trade one disease for another when you have a transplant because there's a huge amount of medications you have to take. He's
Mhm.
forever on anti-rejection meds, and those in itself have their own set of issues. They
Mhm.
cause a lot of issues with, kidney, liver. While they're good for anti-rejection, they're also doing some damage. So he's got to be cautious. He's high risk for skin cancer. Patients that are on anti-rejection meds have a high risk of skin cancers. It's a lot of doctor's appointments, a lot of blood work being drawn, but as of now, everything is status quo.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So he's here, and that's amazing.
Wow. So, last question, um, how has that journey shaped you and your marriage?
This is probably gonna sound so cliche, but, like, you know that saying they always say, like, "You don't know what you got till it's gone or till it's almost taken away from you." Like, I think that it's made our marriage stronger because it's made me appreciate everything. You know, he always jokes, he's like, "Yeah, you didn't want me to die because you need me, you need me." I was like, "Yeah, I need you, but I also want you here." You know,
Yes.
like, I've realized at that moment in time when I thought everything was crumbling apart and I thought, "Okay, he may not survive this." I was lost. I mean, I've known him since I was 16. We've been
Wow.
together since I was 16. He's my best friend. He knows me better than anybody. Yes, he's the father of my children, but, like, I don't wanna do life without him. You know, like, who's the first person you turn to when something happens in your day? You know what I mean? Like, he's the first person that I go to,
Mhm.
you know? Um, it's our kids have been through so much, and I guess 100%. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and it sure as hell makes you appreciate everything, everything that you've been given and all the small things, and, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, you know? I'm not saying that we are unique in any way, but, it has been a roller coaster. It has been a roller coaster, but I definitely think we're stronger because of it, I
Yeah.
think.
I would say, wow. I think when you came in here, you were like, "Ah, I really don't have a great story. It's just like my life." Holy hell. Amy Cooper. Holy hell.
Yeah, I guess maybe, like, I feel like I should do something to turn it around, you know, like, you hear by people that, "Oh, they write books about this happening or that happening," and I'm like, "I'm still not sleeping through the night. I don't know if I have the energy to do that." But I had to say that 100% having a community of people around you, family and friends, you know, I
Mhm.
had family that showed up, and they're there when TJ was in the hospital, when something happens with Case, whatever. I have family that shows up. I have friends that drop everything, fly across the country to stay with me, that cancel vacation plans, that, come and sit with me at the hospital. I know not everybody has that, but, like, when you have that kind of love and support, maybe they don't understand what you're going through, but they're there for you anyhow.
Right.
And, like, a whole community of neighbors who grocery shop for me, and took my kids school shopping, you know, when I was just so I could be at the hospital. Like, that without that, I don't know if I would have survived it.
Right.
Um, it's 100% takes a village, and I hope everybody that either, you know, whether you have a child with special needs or somebody who has any kind of health issues, whatever, if you have any kind of community of people around you, whether it's family or friends, that's such a big part of I think my success
Mhm.
is the support I have from people.
Me, thank you
Well, thanks
so
for having
much.
me. It was lovely
Yes.
talking to you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just we
Anytime.
needed coffee or something.
Yeah, probably,
Um,
or a glass of wine, I don't
or a glass I may
know.
incorporate that, a
Yeah.
glass of wine with our
You
conversations.
yeah.
You are an amazing woman.
Oh, well, thanks, I appreciate that, but like I said, I don't think that I'm unique in any way, I'm just rolling with the punches.
Yeah,
It is what it is, so
yeah.
I wake up every day and what's on the agenda today?
Right. One foot in front of the
That's
other.
right, that's all we can do, right?
Bring it.
Yeah.
I thank you so much for joining me,
Well, thanks for asking me.
and telling your story.
Yeah,
It
I
was
appreciate you
pretty
asking me.
powerful, both of them, and I'm sure there's more, but we tackled 2 today.
Yes, very good.
So thank you.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.